I had been trying to heal and figure out my money blocks for 20 years. I had a subconscious identity that I didn't even know about, that I had adopted after my divorce that was dictating the relationship that I currently had with money. I had multiple aha moments. I need to get much, much deeper on this deal in order to resolve it because I had tried everything else. For years, I did not have a full schedule. After I had been in TCP, I was overbooked. I was like so booked I couldn't breathe, pretty much like almost tripled my income.
How am I causing this from the inside of me?
Because it is always us causing it.
Always. You're listening to the Transform Your Life from the Inside Out podcast. I've got a new series for you guys. It is called Insider Transformation Secrets, and I'm going to be inviting former students from TCP, the Transformational Coaching Program, to share things they've learned, ways they've grown and evolved, to share this with you guys so you listeners can actually grow and evolve and keep transforming your life from the inside out. So on this call, we have Dr. Ann White. She is what are you, Ann?
Doctor of Acupuncture. Doctor of Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine.
Okay, and I do want to say,
say that 10 times fast, Jim.
Okay, I did want to say that I asked her if Oriental medicine was still correct. She said yes, but we'll talk about that in just a minute when we dig into the episode. Okay, so let's dig into the episode. In the introduction, I said something about when you said a doctor of acupuncture and Oriental medicine, and I'd asked, is that still politically correct? And you had said yes, that it's even on your
It's
diploma.
On my diploma. So here's what... the whole acupuncture industry, and we don't need to spend a lot of time on this. So they have designated doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine if you have a 1-year doctorate. Doctor of acupuncture and Oriental medicine, which they do not think is derogatory, if it's a 2-year doctorate on top of your 4-year master's degree.
Well, you learn something every day then, because I did not know that. And, I try to be not in this political culture and climate, not to be entirely woke, but at least to be respectful of cultures and the way the world's changing, But
I'm with you. I'm embarrassed to say it, but it's what they make me say. So I say it.
It is what it is. Okay, so let's talk about transformation, Ann. And I just recently have worked with you, and I think we just finished and we're going to start again in a few months, but we've been working together for a while. So you joined the Transformational Coaching Program when?
November of 24. I think.
November 24.
October,
okay.
Something like that.
I thought it was earlier than that. Okay.
Was it September? Something
like that. Okay. But let me ask you this. Everybody's looking for something. Everyone wants something in life. What were you looking to heal, change, resolve, or create? And, what was it, you're looking for to heal, change, resolve, or create that caused you to join TCP?
Well, I had been trying to heal and figure out my money blocks for 20 years. So that was my impetus for joining TCP.
Okay. And what does that mean, money blocks? Because a lot of people, their ears are perked up right now going, okay, I can relate to money blocks. What did your money blocks look like?
My money blocks looked like accruing a lot of debt, hitting a ceiling in my income level that I could not get past, and I didn't understand why, because prior to that 20 years, I had been able to be really, really successful monetarily. Mm-hmm. I had no debt, blah, 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 multiple properties, and then something happened, which we can get into, and then everything changed. So I was trying to figure that out for 20 years.
So, but you said if I understood correctly, and I'm just trying to get caught up here because I rushed into the interview here really quickly. So were you struggling for 20 years with money blocks prior to joining TCP?
Yeah.
And I assume that affected probably all areas of your life.
Sure.
Okay. What had you done prior to TCP to try to resolve these money blocks? I guess the better question is, what did you do?
We don't have time on this podcast for me even to list it all, okay? You probably could name it, and I would say, yep, Yep, tried it. Yep, tried it. Everything, all things. I hired psychics even. It's embarrassing. Like I tried, I'm not lying. I did intuitives, I did psychics, I did books, I did courses, I did programs, I did a lot of things.
What changed? What unlocked for you? And well, this is where I want to, start bringing some meat and potatoes to people. What changed for you in TCP? Because I remember a video you did for me where you said you resolved 20 years of money blocks in your time with me. What changed and how did it change?
What I thought was interesting was I had a subconscious identity that I didn't even know about, that I had adopted after my divorce that was dictating the relationship that I currently had with money. But it took going through your course to bring that to light because, it was subconscious. It wasn't conscious. I knew I had issues and I knew that, it started at that time. So I knew my divorce had something to do with it, but I didn't really know how to resolve it. And I didn't know how to identify it.
And I see a lot of that. And you've probably been with us, you have been with us for a while now. And you probably have seen a lot of this also in the group where people have all these epiphanies, but they don't know these things are their blocks. So they have no awareness because they are blind spots and they can't see their blind spots, which I'm understanding is where you were. You couldn't see your blind spot. So you're trying everything in the world, so to speak, to resolve the problem at hand, so to speak, money, but you couldn't see the blind spot to resolve the money issue. Is that fair? Is that a fair statement?
100%.
Okay.
And I couldn't see it because it was subconscious. So I didn't even know about it.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Totally. Please expand if there's anything you want to add to that.
Well, that's what I thought was so different about TCP was that not only did it get into the identity, which I think is important, which I also thought was interesting, and we can talk about that in a minute, but it also got into the subconscious identity that I had adopted, that I didn't even know that I had adopted.
Okay.
All those years ago.
Let's go here for a moment. Because the homework, and I don't like that word, but homework, there's a very large amount of, let's say, activity to be done in TCP and is designed to create awareness and epiphanies for you, which you had. When was that aha moment for you, if you can identify it? When was that aha, you can, I guess by your body language, when was that aha moment for you when you're like, oh my gosh, this clicks. Now I see how I was trapped and I didn't even know it.
Honestly, I think it came in stages. I think I had multiple aha moments. One was on a call with you one day. But there were other aha moments that made me realize, okay, I need to get much, much deeper on this deal in order to resolve it because I had tried everything else.
Yeah.
And nothing could.
When you say on a call with me, I'm assuming you mean on a Tuesday hot seat where you asked for coaching and then you brought this up and I coached you through it. Is that correct?
That's correct.
If you can remember by chance, what was that? Now, I understand it came in stages because TCP is designed that way. It's designed, as you know, we say shucking the layers off week by week by week. It's like peeling an ear of corn taking the husk off an ear of corn. We peel away layer by layer as we go. But is there any particular week where you're like, oh my gosh, now I see exactly what it is? And you can say no.
I have to because I want to say, sure, it was week 10, but I think it was a lot of consecutive weeks because you build it so that we can actually get into the things that are covering up what is blocking us, right? So I don't think it was one thing, and I don't think I could have just done that 1 week and not done all of the other, I think it's 12 weeks or is it 13?
13 weeks, right.
I don't think that it would have worked for me, just to hop on one. I mean, I do think you're amazing. I'll say that.
Thank you.
Could we have just hopped on one call for 15 minutes? I think it was all of it together. Yeah. I mean, there were layers coming off. Like, I was so worried about people judging me for so long, like forever. And then there was a week on judging or judgment, and you said something that the brain is wired so that we judge everything all the time. And I was
Right.
like, oh my God, of course that's true. I'm judging everything all the time. Of course people are judging me all the time. There's no problem with that. Bam, gone. It was
Yeah.
stuff like that, and
Okay.
it's just like, bam.
Well, the brain is designed and wired as an evaluative mechanism, meaning we have to evaluate how safe something is to know whether or not that we should pursue that thing. Okay, so in our time together, you had these epiphanies and revelations from week to week, and they started building and throws people for a loop a lot of times in the program. And it's designed that way to shake you up. And it's kind of like zigzag. One week you're going that way, the next week you go that way. Then another week you're like, why is he asking me this? It makes no sense. And we go a different direction. It's all designed to shuck away. But let's talk about what people want to know, because you're here listening and we love before and after stories. So your before story, money struggle, money struggle, money struggle, money struggle. I've tried everything, nothing works. What is the after story from TCP?
So I was seeing patients one-to-one, and for years, I did not have a full schedule. I just didn't. I mean, I am good at helping people get better quickly, but I think there's a lot more to it than that. And after I had been in TCP, I was overbooked. I was like so booked, I couldn't breathe. So that's what, I mean, I pretty much like almost tripled my income.
I want to come back to that in a moment. So, the foundation of TCP is be to have. We have to be so we can do, so we can have.
That's right.
And people hear that all day long, and yet many people dismiss it. You were being a certain way, but what do you think changed in the way that you be that caused you to do something that caused you to create overbooking in a good way?
Well, I know that you believe this too. The inner always equals the outer.
Correct.
So if I have any vibrational frequency going on the inside, it is going to show up on the outside, because these are all my clues.
Right.
So that's what was happening all this time. So I couldn't figure out what vibrational frequency was causing this outside manifestation to be happening. But once I figured out that it was my subconscious identity blaming myself for my success for my prior divorce, not ever wanting to be wealthy, not ever wanting to be successful, because I did not think that that would be conducive to a successful relationship.
I remember that now that you talk about that. And you're somebody who wanted a successful relationship, but you didn't want your perception of, if I'm financially successful, that's not going to be conducive to a relationship. But a relationship is what you want. So therefore, you wouldn't let yourself be financially successful, correct?
Yes. And it wasn't conscious. I mean, I had conversations with my husband multiple times. You even asked me this. You said, have you talked to your husband? Does he care if you make more money than he does? Does he care? I'm like, no, he doesn't. I've talked to him about this. Probably, he's like, oh my God, I cannot have this conversation with you again. So it wasn't him. It was me just being afraid of it, but not understanding or knowing what that was.
I think that's made a big impact on you and a lot of people, because the bigger paradigm is we have so much, I'm going to just, for lack of better words, lurking underneath subconsciously, and we have no awareness about it. So we see things on YouTube, we see things at live events, we see all these big speakers saying, do this, do that, do this, do that. And we think analytically, oh, I can do that. And we can, but we don't understand what's sabotaging us. No matter how much we want it, we don't understand what's sabotaging us because it's a blind spot.
And I would venture to say anyone who has anything happening in their life that they don't want should investigate this.
That's a great comment. If you don't have, and that's, what's interesting is a lot of people may want more, they may wish more, they may hope for more, but they don't investigate at a deep level as to how am I causing this from the inside of me?
Totally, because it is always us causing it.
Always. Whether it be physical illness, whether it be money, any
Yep.
kind of unhappiness, discord,
Weight,
disharmony,
all of it.
we tend to externalize it, looking out and saying, oh, it's the external world. But you being into, I'm going to cringe, Oriental medicine, you recognize that I've literally had over 200 acupuncture sessions. In Dallas, I went every week for 10 years. And I learned over the years that anything happening on the outside, there's a whole system on the inside, and the whole inside system is connected, which we'll talk more about you and what you do and how you can help people in a bit, even though it's not about acupuncture, it's about fertility. And again, we'll talk about that. There's a current TCPer that said I'm responsible for getting her pregnant. I do want to clarify, I didn't get her pregnant. Basically, I helped her move through the limitations that allowed she and her husband to get pregnant. But
Jim, don't worry. I tell a lot of ladies I get them pregnant, and it's not physically possible.
There we go. And so it's all mental, because she thought, I can't get pregnant. So as long as she always thought everything we've done, I can't get pregnant, there was something subconsciously holding her back. And when we found that and removed it, voila, she became pregnant. I don't know if voila is the right word, but voila. Okay. So I was going to ask you about the 3 biggest impacts or realizations of your time in TCP. That's one. If anything comes to mind, what are 2 other things, one at a time, that are like, boom, I never thought about life that way before. I never saw it in that kind of way. And something that impacted your trajectory.
There's so many. I'm having like...
Pick a couple. What calls to you right away?
I'm having like information overload. Okay, really quick. So the judgment thing was huge. I mean, that had been going on my entire life. And for that to go away in like a week, that was unbelievable. The subconscious values was interesting to me, because when I got to that week, and I think it even might be the first week, I was choosing values that I wanted to have instead of really investigating what the values were that were showing up for me, like in front of me. What actually is materializing as my value, whether I want it or not. You know, one of them was ease, you know? So anyway, that was huge for me to figure out what my real values were and how to work with that. How to, this is where the judgment piece, it's sort of layered in there. Like I wasn't judging myself anymore for wanting ease at this point in my life. I'm so superficial that I want beauty. Well, maybe, I don't know. I don't have to judge myself, but I love beauty,
Yeah.
Things like that.
Let's go there for a moment, because that's a big thing. And that's why it's the very first week in TCP, because people don't recognize the degree to which their subconscious values drive them. And then whatever we have or don't have in life is our subconscious values. So you could say, for an example, not you, but anybody could say, I don't want to be 50 pounds overweight anymore, but I keep eating ice cream and I eat a pint of ice cream every day, as an example. Well, we do what we value, not even recognizing, when I put it this way, that we eat a pint of ice cream because we value that, because it serves us in some way.
We value comfort, like the comfort that it brings us or whatever.
So we could value comfort, not even recognizing that ice cream is the
Catalyst.
Conduit to create the comfort.
Totally.
I want to dig in here a little more if we've got somewhere to go and you got more to share. Is there anything further for people listening that you could share or want to share about the importance of understanding your subconscious values?
Well, if you understand your subconscious values, just like you were saying with the ice cream eating, right? You can then get underneath it and figure out, this is what I also thought was cool in the program. Do I want to keep this? Or do I maybe want to shift this a bit? Maybe this is a subconscious sort of habit, and you do talk about habits and everything.
Yep.
That I don't want to hang on to anymore. But if something is in the dark, you can't fix it. When it comes to light, you can. So I think that is a really interesting and effective way to create change.
Here's the thing. I'm really glad the conversation went here, because I want to talk about money in a moment. But no one gets up in the morning and says, hey, what are my subconscious values today? I need to identify my values because I'm going to work from my subconscious values. We actually live our values, not even knowing we're living our values. And they're all subconscious. So if we're not getting what we want, it's because we're living from some value that self sabotages us instead of creating what we want. Now, you wanted financial success, money, bookings, bigger business. And we've talked about that before. We won't go there in this call, but about the mechanics of that, meaning your website and different things. But how has your life changed financially as a result of recognizing how, your values play out and these things we've been talking about?
Well, it's interesting because I've maxed out, my in-person patient care. And now I'm working on rolling out, which I will in March, my new fertility program online.
2 years ago, did you ever think it was possible to max out your availability?
No.
Okay.
A. B. I was so petrified of doing any sort of thing online that I was just stuck. I mean, I always had the idea that it'd be great, but I never did it.
And, we see a lot of that in TCP. TCP, I love the community, is full of extraordinarily passionate people who want to do something in the world. We both know that. But they don't because they're afraid of what you talked about. And we do talk about that in TCP a lot. And when I say talk about it, we dive deep. The fear of being judged by other people. So it's huge, right? It's huge. You're laughing at that. Because that's what held you back for many years is I want to do these things. Because you and I have actually, we've had a session on it in the group where you're a healer. And we'll talk about fertility in a moment. And you're a healer and you want to bring this great value to people to help them have and to conceive and have kids, but you were afraid to put yourself out there. And then when you release yourself from that fear, boom, everything opens up for you.
Absolutely.
So where does this take you now that you've opened all this up for yourself?
Well, I'm going to say stay tuned because I think I'm just going to launch from here and I'm excited about it. It's like I've maxed where I am. I can't go any further. I can't do any more. I'm maxed. I cannot see one more patient in my office. It's not possible. So now I'm like, okay, so where do I go?
And I'm going to ask you a question, not to put you on a hot seat. Where do you go?
Well, I go online and then it's, there's no limit. But I don't have a fear of that now. I don't have a fear of judgment like I had before. And I don't have a fear of success like I had before.
A lot of people say that. They've got a fear of success. What does that mean?
Well, for me, I thought I had to choose success or love. That was a subconscious situation. And I was valuing love more than I was valuing success. And I thought that I had to. I thought that if I was successful, I was not lovable, essentially.
And, as we do in TCP, we dive deep. It's not therapy, it is coaching. But what I'm curious about, where do you think that belief came from?
It came from getting divorced and I was super successful and he wasn't. And I blamed my success for our divorce, which is a non sequitur, but it's what happened.
Right. So then you created a belief as a result of that if I'm successful, then no man is going to love me again. So therefore, I can't be successful, correct?
Yep. All subconscious, though.
Oh, of course. Yeah, you didn't know, but that's why you're beating your head against the wall.
Well, because it's crazy, right? It's like, who says this? I'm like, I'm a nut job, but I'm not a nut job. It was just like this identity took over subconsciously that wanted to protect me.
Yeah, which is something we talk about in TCP, the secondary gain. How are you trying to protect yourself
exactly right.
from XYZ? And you were trying, because you want love and you wanted love. And interestingly enough, is that you are a fertility coach, and that's all about relationship and connection and procreation and love. So you weren't even being consistent with the industry you were wanting to move into. I mean, the way you were setting it up originally was you're a single woman alone with 9 cats. No offense to anybody that owns 9 cats, but you're helping people wanting to be fertile to have kids. It just doesn't fit. So I'd assume once you reconciled that, that's when things started opening up for you also.
Yeah, I mean, it's just another level. There's so many levels.
So I remember something we talked about before, and it comes to mind, and you had said something along the lines of, if your husband, which I said to you, if your husband can't accept you as you are and love you, then is that a good relationship to be in anyway? Did I say that correctly?
You did. Your question to me was so poignant because it was like, listen, if you are a successful person and this is what you want in your life, and this is actually your life and soul's path, why would you want to be with someone who doesn't want to be with who you are
Hmm.
at your core, who you are? And
How did that hit you?
I mean, like a lightning bolt. It was like, of course, like, of course, I don't want to be with someone who doesn't want to be with exactly who I am. That doesn't even make sense.
Were you with your partner that you are with now when I asked you that question?
For 10 years, yeah.
How did that affect your relationship once you came to that awareness, that aha, that epiphany?
I would love to say it changed our relation. Our relationship is really pretty good.
Yeah.
So, and we talk about things, and he's like, okay, we can stop talking about how you're afraid to be successful and all that stuff, Annie, because you have to work that out. That's not my thing. It's your thing. So
Yeah.
that's why I was working it out. But it did help me to, it wasn't about him loving me. It was about me loving me.
That's a big one because we talk a lot about that. It's about the power. What changed? This is a big one. Thank you, Annie. What changed when you started exploring you loving you and not looking for external acceptance or validation or not being judged? Because I remember one time a couple of years ago, I said, "Hey guys, what's your biggest, like the biggest aha, the biggest change for you in TCP?" And I got over 100 answers, and that's when we had cohorts, which we're going back to. I got over 100 people saying, learning to value and love myself without regard.
Value your value. That was a big one for me too.
Value
Huge.
your value. But so
Value
you're
your
saying that
value.
once you learn to love yourself, that affected, could you, now maybe you couldn't, and I'm not asking you to make anything up. Did that create any noticeable change and further connection in your personal relationship?
Well, definitely, because I think if you show up more authentically, then the connection is deeper and better.
It's just something you know at a heart level. It just fits. It works better, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk here for a second about what you do for people listening, because I know for a fact people could use what you do. So, what do you do besides get
I
women pregnant?
Yeah, I use brain science, natural medicine, and manifestation to help women get pregnant. But the biggest block over 17 years, what I've seen women getting pregnant is fear and worry. So we program their mind to not be in fear and worry. Because anytime a woman is in fear, that whole hormonal cascade happens that prioritizes survival over reproduction, and you can't get pregnant.
That's really powerful. People don't think of it that way. It's okay, what's happening in the mind manifests in the body. So I could be thinking, oh, analytically, I can't get pregnant, fear, worry. And many people, as I understand, please correct me, I am not an expert on this, not an expert on anything, but many women feel as if they can't get pregnant, then they're less of a woman, they're not a good partner, they're going to embarrass people, they're going to be ashamed, and there's something wrong with them. Is that a fair statement?
Yes. And it's all this negativity and all this fear and all this worry that actually perpetuates the quote unquote infertility. I mean,
Right.
how many times have you heard of a woman who decides to adopt and gets pregnant? Or I just recently had a patient they told her husband was the reason she wasn't getting pregnant. She was pregnant the next month. It has so much to do. And if you tell a woman who can't have a baby to minimize her fear and worry on her own, she will poke your eyes out with forks. Okay? So
Are you
I
sure that's
get
a
that.
fair example to women? They're gonna.
No, but I mean, it's a really frustrating place to be. If it's something you want more than anything and it's not happening. And so, of course, there's fear and worry involved. So I don't even focus on that. I focus on let's reprogram your brain to It's a neuroplasticity thing. It's a brain
Right.
science thing. To be more calm and default to more positive thoughts instead of all of the thoughts that you were just talking about that are totally natural.
So what you do is not woo-woo. There's brain science behind it, correct?
Yeah.
And I figured, but I'm just, I know you,
No,
but
it's a good
we're just
question.
for
I mean,
people listening,
there's a little woo in there because we do some manifestation stuff, but yeah,
that's
it
not
is.
woo, that's physics. There's science
Thank
that
you. It is.
endorse.
Physics explains everything.
I mean, ancient wisdom has been validated by a lot of science. But let me go back here. I've never told you this, even in all the time I've known you. Now, you may know this part is that I was adopted within the extended family. And the reason why is because my mother thought she couldn't get pregnant. So, my parents, I asked my mom one time, how come my sister and I are only 6 months apart? And the reality is my mom and dad thought they could not conceive, so they decided to adopt. They adopt me. All of her fear and worry came down about being able to conceive. Voila, bam, she's
Bada bing,
pregnant.
bada boom.
Bada bing, bada boom. Exactly
Happens
6 months later.
all the time.
Anyway, I'll leave it at that. But I think people listening, number one is you can help them tremendously because this is such a source of shame for women, fear, and just many different things. Where can they find more about you before I actually ask you a couple more questions? Where can people find more about what you do and how you can help them?
I have a website. It's Dr. spelled out Dr. Annie, ANNIE, white.com.
Okay, so it's the whole word doctor.
DOCTOR, yeah.
DrAnnieWhite.com.
I do not have Oriental in my website.
Okay.
I'm just
Well, that's
kidding.
where people can find Dr. Annie White. We'll put you in the show notes also. So a couple of things. I found it not in any kind of way, I don't know how I found it. I found it disrespectful when I don't really follow what people say about me and all those kind of things, but somebody wrote a really nasty online review and said that I pay for testimonials and videos and all that.
Why would you
Have I
have
offered
to?
you, huh?
Why would you have to?
I don't, exactly,
No.
because we have like 500 videos alone for people in TCP. Have I offered you any money?
No.
Have I told you
And
what
if you
to
did,
say?
I wouldn't do it. What?
Have I
you?
told you what to say?
No.
Okay, two more questions. And this one's going to be a bit leading, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. Do you feel like you could have made the changes that you've made without just by listening to the podcast alone? Do you feel like you could have made the changes that you did?
No, because I didn't.
Because you listened for quite some time and you didn't,
Yeah.
right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I had to scope you out.
Right, of course.
And I loved what you had to say, but I think that the step-by-step process in TCP is so important. I'm not being paid for this, and you did not tell me to say this,
Right.
but I think every human should do that program. It's really, really, really amazing.
That's what I had people say. And I don't know that because I put it together. It took me like 9 months to do. I wrote it all, but I look at the results. You're out getting people pregnant, and the other people that are in the program. So look at those results. Okay. What if someone came to you and said, Annie, because I think this will pertain to you. I really want to work with Jim. I want to enroll in TCP, but I don't have any money and I'm afraid.
I was there. Do it. You'll make so much more money than you invest.
If you do what?
If you do the work.
Yeah, that's
of
the
course.
thing.
And
It's
you
not
do it to
because
do the work. Like, this is not like watch some videos, but nothing is.
Yeah, and you and I can talk in this kind of way. It's not like you come sit on your ass for
No.
13 weeks saying, oh, bring it on. No, there's work to do. And you've got to immerse and you've got to be in the work and you've got to be in the community because the community helps you guys change because all the support we get from the community. Okay, before we wrap up today, any parting wisdom about anything you do, anything you've learned, anything you want to leave with people listening that will make their life a little better?
I am serious that if there's anything showing up in your life that you don't want, you didn't ask for, that isn't right, you can fix it. I mean, you're going to have to go subconscious with it, but there's a reason and you can figure it out And this is a great program to help you do that.
Thank you so much, Annie. I really appreciate that. So drannywhite.com will drop you in the show notes. Annie, I love you. I'm always behind you. I support you. And I appreciate you being here and sharing your wisdom. And I hope, my intention is that we can help more people transform their lives. But my intention also is that people will listen to you, women that are going through all this fear, all this worry, all this anxiety. And I see a lot, even though you didn't mention it, the shame about not being able to conceive and then afraid to tell their mother and father and whatever they're not conceiving. I hope they'll reach out to you and ask you for guidance and assistance to help them create what they want in life. So thank you again, Annie. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Jim. Keep doing great work in the world. Thanks.
Thank you. See you later.